All right, let's jump right in. We're about to cackle one of the most important, most influential, and honestly, one of the most controversial books ever written, Plato's Republic. For more than 2,000 years, this thing has both fascinated and infuriated people. And today, we're going to figure out why.
To get a sense of just how powerful this book is, just listen to this quote. That's what Yale professor Stephen Smith tells his students. I mean, can you imagine that? Being told that a single book, this one book, could be the most important intellectual experience of your entire life? That's the kind of weight the Republic carries. It's not just some old text. For some people, it's a total game changer.
And there's a really good reason for all that hype. You could seriously make the case that this is the book that started it all. Almost every major work of political science written since, from Aristotle all the way to today, has been in some way or another a response to Plato's Republic. It basically set the stage for the entire conversation.
But here's the big problem. For a book that's so important, nobody seems to completely agree on what it's actually about. It's long, it's super complex, and it has been puzzling readers for centuries. So, what is the central question Plato is really trying to answer here? Well, the most obvious answer, and it's even in the book's subtitle, is that it's all about justice. What is it, how do we get it, and what would a truly just society even look like? Or maybe the city is just one big metaphor. Could the book actually be a work of moral psychology? Is it really about finding the right balance and ordering of the human soul? About how we find harmony inside ourselves? Then you've got another theory. Maybe it's a book about culture, about the incredible power of poetry, myths, and the stories we tell ourselves to shape who we are as citizens and ultimately the fate of our whole society.
Or is it something even deeper, more fundamental? Some people argue the Republic is really all about metaphysics, a huge philosophical dive into the ultimate structure of reality itself, digging into wild ideas like Plato's theory of forms. So which one is it?
And all this confusion leads us straight into the book's central paradox, this debate that has been absolutely raging for decades. Is Plato describing a perfect utopia or a totalitarian nightmare? And this is right at the heart of the conflict. On one hand, Plato describes Callipolis, this beautiful city that's ruled by super-wise philosopher kings. It's supposed to be a perfectly harmonious, perfectly just society. But then you look at how he plans to get there and, whoa, we're talking severe censorship of art and poetry, getting rid of the family and private property for the rulers, and using what he calls noble lies, which sounds a lot like propaganda, to keep everybody in their place.
Now, this darker take on Plato isn't new. It was really shoved into the mainstream back in the 1950s by a philosopher named Karl Popper. He wrote this hugely influential book, The Open Society and Its Enemies, right in the shadow of World War II. And in it, he basically accuses Plato of writing the original intellectual playbook for modern totalitarianism.
To put it as bluntly as possible, there was a professor who would start his lectures on the Republic with this one shocking line. Now we will consider Plato, the fascist. I mean, wow, that is a heavy accusation. But when you look at some of the methods Plato describes, you can kind of see where he's coming from.
So is that it? Is that the final word? Is one of the cornerstones of Western philosophy just a blueprint for tyranny? Well, hang on. There's another way to look at this whole thing, a way that might just solve the puzzle.
Centuries later, the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau came along and offered this stunning reinterpretation. He said, forget about the politics for a second. The Republic, he argued, is not a political treatise, but it is the finest, most beautiful work on education ever written. Think about that. What if Plato wasn't designing a state, but a school?
This idea completely reframes the entire project. The city Plato describes isn't a state in the way we think of it, it's what's called a tutelary association. It's an institution where the number one goal is educating citizens for public leadership. And this makes so much sense, right? We have to remember, Plato was a teacher first and foremost. The man founded the very first university in the Western world, the Academy. His entire life was all about education.
And this is where the story takes a really sharp turn and connects, believe it or not, directly to you and the world we all live in today. Because if the Republic is a blueprint for a school, then its legacy is literally all around us.
So just look at this historical through line. Plato founds his academy in ancient Athens. After the fall of Rome, that model gets absorbed into medieval monasteries. Then, those monasteries evolve and become the first great European universities, like Oxford and Paris. And eventually, that exact model gets brought over to the New World, establishing the very institutions of higher learning that exist today. So here's the kicker.
The modern university is a direct descendant of Plato's academy. Without Plato, there's no Yale, no Harvard, well, you get the idea. In a very real and direct sense, we are all the heirs of Plato.
And the parallels are actually kind of startling when you lay them out. Think about it. In both Plato's ideal city and an elite modern university, young men and women are picked for their leadership potential. They live together, they eat together, they study together, far away from their parents. The best of the best are then chosen for more study and are groomed for public service. And all of them go through years of rigorous intellectual and physical training.
Suddenly, the structure of Plato's beautiful city doesn't seem like some bizarre, ancient idea, does it? In a lot of ways, it's the exact archetype for the very institutions that shape the leaders of our world today. And that leads us to our final and, pretty provocative question. If Karl Popper was right, if Plato's entire educational and political project is fundamentally fascist, and if our own elite institutions are the direct heirs of that very project, well, what does that make the people who attend them? What does that make you? It's a really challenging thought, and it's the enduring, complicated, and fascinating legacy of Plato's Republic.